Hey everyone, this is Ian Miller. Welcome to another episode of Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. I'm here tonight with two very special guests, two legends, even though I'm pretty sure they don't like the legend status, but uh, they're very big people. One is a creator and artist who has actually created the series Grendel and Mage, has worked on many titles such as Batman, The Shadow, Sandman Mystery Theater. The other is another accomplished artist, pencil and inker, who has done many subject matters, many titles, including Batman Dracula Red River. And they're here tonight to discuss their new Kickstarter project. So please welcome Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones.
Hey,
Welcome, guys.
glad to be here. Hey, Matt.
Hey, dude, you again.
So this must be a weekly occurrence.
Yep, I got my.
This whole project began. I got us two Dracula whiskey tumblers.
Yes,
which we've saved for this week.
Oh, nice, very nice.
And we're using a lot of it.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before we actually get into tonight's topic, I thought we'd take this opportunity to talk about how you guys got started in the business, because many of my viewers aren't actually comic book readers and they have followed your careers as I have. So, very briefly, I'd like you to talk about how you got started.
Well, I was lucky enough to get started, Kelly too, back in the 80s, where for the first time ever, comic creators could own their own intellectual property. So I was kind of part of the vanguard of indie comic creators back in the early 80s. Previous to that, anything you did, the publisher owned it, no question. Yeah. So I'm best known for my two creator-owned series, Grendel, which has just celebrated its 40th anniversary last year, and Mage. The two are very kind of polar opposite series. One is an urban fantasy, and it's kind of all about the classic hero's journey, the archetypical hero's journey, and the other is a dark genre mashup that goes from crime fiction to science fiction to spooky stuff to all over the place, with a generational villain. The main character is the villain, not the hero. That rolls throughout the centuries, becoming new personas over and over and over again. The book continually reinvents itself and reinvents the character. And from there, I went on to work on a bunch of the well-known mainstream characters. I've done a whole lot of Batman. I did a famous series called Trinity, which was about how Superman and Batman meet Wonder Woman for the first time. In fact, that's become now a common term for the three of them, but that was my series, was the first use of it. I wrote and co-wrote a series called Sandman Mystery Theater for Vertigo Comics for like 7 years that reimagined the original Golden Age Sandman character in kind of a modern crime, not modern, but a contemporary approach set in the 30s and 40s, crime noir sort of scenario, and just kept at it ever since then. I've written a whole lot of characters. I wrote Zorro for a number of years, and in fact co-wrote the Zorro Django crossover with Quentin Tarantino, teaming up Zorro with his character Django from the film Django Unchained. It's his first comic book work and his first sequel to any of his stories. You know, if you consider Kill Bill one big long story, which I do.
Yeah.
Kel, your turn.
I got started by Marvel had done a tryout thing, and DC was doing something similar. And this is like 1981 or something. And I sent in primarily inking samples. And several months later, as apocryphal as it sounds, I got a response on the same day. DC saying, no way. Marvel saying, we'll hire you to ink.
I gotta love that shit, huh?
Yeah, on the same day. And it was honestly Halloween. It was on the 29th of October. And
that was an inking gig? I didn't know you started off as an inker.
Yeah, it was. I didn't know how to pencil, Matt. I never pen.
Oh,
I just
boy,
drew. I
find that
drew
hard to believe.
pictures to ink.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think I was that good, at least in comic book stuff. Drawing is one thing. Drawing comics is a different. They hired me and they threw me right into the fire. And about a year and a half later, the penciler Butch Geist decided he wanted to move on. And I thought that was it. You know, I was pretty naive about stuff. And the next thing was they said, we don't like any of the penciling samples we're getting, and there's not really any, but we liked your pencil samples that you were inking, not because, you know, that's what they still had those on file. And I told them, I don't know how to do it. And the editor, Ralph Macchio, says, I'll walk you through it. You're going to do this. If you completely crash and burn, it's on me. It's not on you. I'll make sure then you ink somebody. So I said, all right. And he sent me a script and he walked me through it. And it was long.
So what was that first gig penciling?
It was Micronauts.
Oh.
It was the last issue. And then they started a new run of it. And I did about 20.
Not a title I would immediately think of for you, but
no, and it's why probably my art school was Marvel at that time. Because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I was just, you know, trying to survive, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do comics. You know, to be honest, once you think you do, and then you get there and you go, I'm not sure. But as I started to get the hang of it, I started to get frustrated that my ideas couldn't be out there, and how I wanted to look wouldn't happen. When occasionally I had to ink my own pencils, they would really like it. And I think, okay, this is my shot. And they go, no, but they want, you know, Marvel thinking production wise, we'll get someone else to ink you, which was very different from what was in my head. And I always felt, though these guys are doing their best, they're satisfying an editor, not me. So when, very funny, I was under contract there too. And I hated that. I'll never do it again because you're trapped. You have to do what they say. You have to, they get all the guarantees are great, but then they give you stuff you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And, I did a bad thing in that I'd met some people at DC and they liked what I was doing. And I kind of said what I just said. And they said, well, we'll give you a shot to do what you want. And I was under contract, but I figured I'm in Sacramento. I'm so far away. What are they going to do? So I took the job.
Send that Marvel hit squad after you.
Right. I got the job, and the job was, they didn't know I wanted horror. All they heard me say was this, and it was horror. And the first thing, and I went, wow. And they apologized for it, saying, well, we know it's horror. Like, but it's a backup thing in Action Comics Weekly. And it was everything you want to hear. Just a few pages. No one's paying attention. You can just go off. And I never had the intention of changing Deadman. It was a Deadman thing. I had no intention of changing it until I got to it. And then I realized, you know, God damn it, Neil Adams. You know, everything was Neil Adams, and everything I looked was Neil Adams. Everybody who was, even other artists who did it were very good, it didn't work. So the first day I drew as straight as I could, didn't work. I got up the next morning, looked at it and go, this is garbage. I chucked it. And I walked around the house. And then it was like one of those things, dead man, just draw him dead. See what happens. Didn't ask the editor, didn't want nothing. So I knew they were really late. So I drew 8 pages, mailed it in, waited to hear. Nothing came back. No feedback, none.
Which sometimes is good.
Which is good. And then I got the next script, and they said all their concern was the deadline. So I did it again. Drew this really different thing, waiting. And then finally they did call, and they said, we need to talk to you about what you're doing. And yeah. And they said, when the editor said, she said, I personally don't care for it. But I love it. I don't really, I'm not into that kind of what you're doing. I'm like real mainstreamy, but I really like this weird approach, and everyone here is loving it. So go further, keep doing it. And then that was all I needed. And these little backups caught the attention of DC proper, and they said, would you want to do a prestige series? And I was really very arrogant then. You know, I figured I wasn't, but I was acting like only if I get to ink it, you know, because I still wasn't getting the ink myself. And they acted like, oh, that's good. That makes it easy. We don't have to find anyone else. At the same time, because I'd left Marvel and not told them, Marvel got a hold of me. And I went, oh, no, here it comes. What do I say? But I wasn't going to give up this Deadman gig. And it hadn't been published yet. And they called to apologize, but they were canceling all the books I was slated to do. And they were going to have to, because I was under contract, they were going to have to do a pretty big buyout on me.
Oh, there's my
And
get out of
so I
jail
got this
free
big
card.
check, and I got out of it without anything. And I was, Matt, what I did was I kept saying, well, no, what do you mean? I'm here. What are you doing to me? This is the end of my thing. Well, you know.
You better pay me as soon as you can.
Yeah. And then I said, well, then I'm done with you. Click.
Oh, my. I'm proud of you.
And I went, man, okay, I believe in God now. Because he came in and said, I'll solve the problem. Because the whole time I'm doing Deadman and getting praise, under it is I'm getting indigestion thinking that call's coming because I am not drawing what they gave me. You know, I just figured, I know that's terrible. That is so unprofessional. And these people have been nice to me, but every time I ask to ink something or show who I am, this would happen. So I got to DC, and then there was a lot of success with Deadman, and they said, do you want to do, you know, they kept it like Batman and Sandman and all these things. So I kept doing the same trick where I acted like I invented it, because when they gave me Batman, Neil Adams again, you know, and
dude, was Red Rain before Sandman?
Red Rain was after Sandman. When I got Sandman, it was because Karen Berger liked Deadman a lot, and she tested to see who I was and how I was by giving me a Swamp Thing.
Wow.
Okay, so I did a Swamp Thing. It became their best-selling one of that year, and it sold out. When they were talking to me, I said, "Yeah, I'll think about it." And then I did Grimjack, 2 issues of Grimjack, because I didn't want him to do. I didn't want to fall into the Marvel trap. Which I just came out. So I did those, and they really dug the grit. I would show DC in progress what I was doing.
You got to go on a date with another girl too.
You do. So that girl loves you. And so when all of that happened, that's when they said, we have this new writer, Neil Gaiman. He's really dug your Grimjacks, and he really dug your Deadman. Do you want to give it a shot? And I said, I knew something of it, and the same thing. I just went in and acted like it was brand new. It was mine, you know. Neil dug it, gave me another one. Neil dug it, and then he said, "I have this big thing, Seasons of Mist. Do you want to do it?" And originally, I was supposed to do the whole thing, but they weren't convinced of my speed, and I was really fast. So at that time, that's when Matt got hired to do one.
Yeah, I was going to say, why did I get that one chapter? Was that
because
were you behind, or just
no?
They were just betting against you.
No, Neil was behind. He was really late with the scripts, and
well, he was freshly hot at that point, so he was traveling a lot and getting a lot of.
Well, he ran into
razzmatazz on the road, you know,
and he lost a lot of time because he had a bad writer's block, and so. For example, Dream of a Thousand Cats wasn't supposed to be Dream of a Thousand Cats. It was supposed to be something else. He couldn't come up with it, and finally he says cats, and he wrote this thing.
Well, that's a good fallback.
It was, and that was one of those fortunes with Dream was a big hit outside of comics. So they figured, well, let's see if Kelley will do it. And then they said, "Can you do this?" And under the time frame, I said, "Easily. I'd done it already." Marvel had already trained me how to be a really efficient monkey. And so I said, "Yeah, no problem. I can do it." And Neil, I was on the phone with, and that's probably one of the few times Neil didn't just write a full script, because he would just tell me, "Hey, this is what's going on," or he'd give me pieces, and to try to keep up. And so I did that. It did very well. And then that's when Archie Goodwin saw what I was doing. And he said, well, do you want to do, would you do an inventory pinup of Batman? And I did. And he liked it so much that Denny O'Neil took it and used it as a cover. Yeah, and he used it as a cover about a year later. And yeah, he just took it. Well, Denny was in charge, right?
Yeah.
And then that's when Doug Mensch had seen it, and he had always wanted to do a full-throated horror comic with Batman.
I mean, not intended.
Not like it's a Scooby-Doo thing where they take off the mask and it was fake supernatural, real supernatural. So he had seen it, and I was very crestfallen because they said, hey, Doug Mensch and Denny O'Neil want you to do Batman. Wow. And then it was like, it's not, it's with
side continuity.
Yeah, and it's not Dracula, right? I didn't understand Elseworld or anything because they didn't really do it then. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, the Joker, the Penguin, Two-Face, all the great villains. It's dead. It's Dracula. And I was kind of crestfallen until I read the premise, and it was excellent. It was gothic. Everyone dies. And it was very much left to my own devices. They said, you come up with how he looks, and you come up with everything. And I did it. And then again, I got it where I started. This is the first time I truly got confident. I faked confidence first. Then I got confident because the whole time I was doing it, it was off in a corner, and the company was raving about Alan Grant and Simon Bisley's Batman Judge Dredd. And it was gorgeous. I mean, I would see some of it as it was going. They say
you have style heavy as can be, it was not the company look by any means.
Not at all. And it was just really, Simon Bisley takes you by the throat. So, and it was just a bonkers script. It was really good. And what happened was I was just destroyed because they told me, hey, Red Rain is coming out on this weekend. It was the same weekend as Simon Bisley's Judge Dredd. Batman Judge Dredd. Same weekend. I said, well, that's it. It's done. I wasted my time. Thank you very much. I'm leaving right now because I looked at it. But what happened was we sold out, not them.
Oh, huh.
And we sold out in a day. 35,000 hardcover copies.
Damn.
There were none to go. I had a signing.
Those were different days, my friend.
They were different. Hey, so I had to go to signings where they didn't have any more books and they couldn't get any. And DC couldn't fulfill it. So if you got one that day or whatever, I remember the first time I met Simon, he came up to me and I go, hey, Simon. He comes up and he just hits me in the arm. But then he gave me a hug. But man, it was great.
In character for sure.
Yeah. And he hit me in the arm and then he gave me a big hug. He says, you did good. You did good. And because there was no real advertising, there was no real, they were just, I think a lot of it was to make Doug Mensch happy. He knew Denny and it took off. And so at that point I felt, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I know what I'm doing. And then it was after that, it was lots of covers, 3-year run on Batman, Aliens. I did some X-Men stuff, which, and then, and primarily at that point got typecast as a horror guy, which is what my intent was. I wanted to be typecast as a horror guy. So they would just give me cool jobs rather than jobs that I didn't really want to do.
Yeah.
Hey, Ian, I want to piggyback on a couple of things that Kelley said during that recounting, which is that, you said a lot of your viewers might not understand the world of comics. Kelley mentioned early on, you feel like you want to be in comics, and then when you're in it, you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
Because it is such a shit ton of work.
It is.
It's an enormous amount of work. If any of your viewers are amateur artists in their own right, just think to yourselves, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do a drawing. How long does it take you? How much focus, how much concentration, how much all of that does it take to finish that drawing? Comic book page has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 drawings per page. Every issue has 20 to 24 pages per issue, and that happens every month. So it's just a ton of work, and you have to somehow figure out how to compartmentalize that and how to figure out how I'm drawing this panel. and that's good enough. Now moving on to the next panel, and you have to figure out how to make the machine roll so that at the end you have a complete issue, and you're not bogged down on one panel or one page.
It used to take me, because I didn't know how to do this, 16 hours a day to get that page done when they first got me into this. And I had no formal artistic training. I just had a knack for drawing, and the only thing I could fall back on was I did take a lot of film courses in college. And that helped me at least kind of visualize how to do this. It was off kilter
as an overall narrative,
right?
Instead of individual drawings. Yeah.
Yes, and it was off kilter, and I was lucky in that the first editor I had kind of dug this awkward storytelling style, and he didn't tell me fix it. He said, keep doing it, keep doing it. I've been lucky that I had two editors say that, both at the start, one at Marvel and one at DC, saying not really my thing at DC, but keep doing it. And at Marvel, I don't know, the same kind of, it's odd, but I like it, that thing. So so it helped me build a style. And I was out in Sacramento, so I had no connection to other artists, really. I had no connection to and professional artists, I should say.
Yeah.
And I had no, I mean, I would talk to the editor every once in a while, occasionally the penciler, but I was really on my own.
But dude, I'm sure at this point you're the same as me in regards to production. You're continuing looking at the clock. You're like, all right, it's 8:30 now in the morning. By 9:30, I'm going to be here. By 10:30, I'm going to be here.
I used to
time, I'm going to be here.
I used to put on record.
You make it a point to hit those marks.
Yes,
almost like an actor on a movie set.
I still do this trick where I put on a record. By the time that record's done, I'm done with this part. I put on a movie or something. By that movie's done, two panels have to be finished.
Yeah,
I did it, Matt. I did that today because I knew this.
I did too, because I had to cook dinner. My daughter's coming over for dinner tonight, so I had to cook dinner.
Yeah, I knew this was coming.
We got on screen here tonight, so
I told everyone do takeout. Normally, I cook too. I was going to roast a turkey today, but I said there's no time.
Yeah, so that's really the hard truth of the matter, folks, especially for those who want to be comic artists and writers. It takes time, and you definitely have to be fast if you're working for some of the big companies. But if you're doing it, indie, you still have to time yourself.
Yeah,
you have to make the effort.
You have to be consistent and persistent. Don't get bogged down. Don't get discouraged. Don't get. Just keep moving ahead. Keep moving ahead.
And I always found production, a lot of production where you're not allowed to nitpick over yourself creates a good style and creates and gives you the ability to think.
Yeah.
Because I try to have it drawn in my head now before I actually sit down to draw. So if, for example, when I read Matt's stuff, I'll read the script several times. I'll make maybe notes on something I should have some reference for. But generally speaking, I will read it a few times, that page over a few times the day before I have to draw it. So it's working.
Yeah.
And then when I sit down, I have it all ready to go. I mean, then it's just putting it on paper. And some writers, it's very tough to do. Matt, it was easy to do. It was just there. And it was effortless, actually. Even though it was work intense. And because it was due to me, because I wanted certain things to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to see how it was going to look. And because I hadn't worked with Matt before, I wanted him. I'm normally pretty loose with my pencils. I just put in some constructive lines, a few indications of texture.
Same with me, Kel. Yeah, when I'm drawing for myself, when I'm writing my own thing. Yeah.
But I hadn't worked with Matt before, so I did much fuller pencils than I normally do because I wanted him to see and not think, "Oh my God, what am I going to get?" I always knew that when I inked it, it would really come alive, and then he would go, "Wow, okay." That's I always wait for whoever I'm working with. I always say, "Please just wait till it's inked. It will look a lot better when it's inked," because I always think in ink. I don't think in pencils. I see some pencilers and they put all this work into a pencil. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because
I always say, I was Jason, we'll get to Dracula soon. Or Ian, sorry. We'll get to Dracula soon. I always I was very inspired by a lot of the European cartoonists, and in fact the Japanese cartoonists too. Especially Koike and Kojima on Lone Wolf and Cub. Where they didn't seem afraid of the ink. It seemed like they were drawing in the ink. They weren't nailing everything down to a fine-tuned degree in the pencils. And I felt like when I'm penciling and inking myself, there's a penciling stage, and I want that to be exciting and constructive. But then the inking stage can't just be tracing over the pencils, to use the old Kevin Smith term.
Yeah.
It's got to bring its own level of dynamism to the final product. And I like drawing with the ink over top of my, as Kelly said, kind of bare bones pencils.
Yep.
It's just a constructive pencil. It's not. You're not really defining line quality. You're not really defining shadow. You're defining form and you're defining motion, and that's about it.
But don't you find it, Matt, more exciting too?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Matt's naming all these guys he looked at when he was young. I had no access to any of that out here. It was like whatever Marvel or DC put out, that was all you're going to see. He was back east, so he saw all the great stuff.
I was back east, and dude, I married a girl from Canada, and I moved up there and lived with her for a while, so I had access to French bookstores.
Yeah.
In Montreal, and all of a sudden I could see because you just go to a regular bookstore, a French bookstore, and there's all these French graphic albums. And I was just like, holy shit, this is great.
Matt turned me on to one of the times I remember we were in San Francisco in a store signing. And Matt turned me on to so much stuff that I had never seen. He says, come here. And I go, what? And he says, you got to look at this guy. And I went, whoa, this is great. And then he gives me another go, oh, this is great. And I came home with a stack of stuff. That completely
mission accomplished.
Right, that blew my mind how good the art was, right? And I had never seen it. And this is, I guess, when we were signing Sandman's is what it was.
In San Francisco. There with Neil.
So at that point, like I said, I just didn't have access to a lot of the stuff. San Francisco, you can get it, or they were starting to get it. And Matt was very enthusiastic about these guys, and it wasn't that fake enthusiasm where it's like, I'm going to be smart and erudite and elite. It was like, no, you got to get into this. This is like down and dirty shit. And I remember there's one book he showed me. It was a French book, and it was it was called
Sombra.
Yes,
it was about the French Revolution by a French artist named Yslaire. Yslaire.
And he pointed out some panels. He pointed out some panels to me, and I went, and he just says, what do you see? And I said, oh my God, it was pretty graphic, but it was all shady stuff, right?
Yeah.
Very, very, very erotic and very bloody and all this stuff. And I went, wow, this guy's great. And Matt says, yeah, he's great. This is, and it changed it. And then at that point I went, I like this art. It agreed with my sensibility of storytelling because it was ambiguous. You didn't know, what is this guy doing? What is this girl doing? It's kind of like, but if you're into the story, you get it, you know it. Yeah. And it worked better. And I went, okay, that was kind of my sensibility, but I didn't know how to formally put it all in my head. Because I was, like I said, film, and here's a guy do it in comics. And it knocked me out. And I remember coming home and telling my wife, I said, God, it's so funny because I always call Matt like
the guy made me buy all these books.
Yeah. Yeah. But I always call Matt the professor. And I said, like, he gave me all these books. It's like homework. It's great. It's like textbooks, right? And I just enjoyed reading them. One was in French, but it didn't matter because I could understand it. It was so good. I knew everything that was going on. I didn't have any questions. But it was terrific. And that's probably when I began to really trust him, because I loved his work and I was reading his stuff. And I thought, this guy's got it. That whatever it is, he's got it. There's nothing here that's artificial, and this is the real deal. So I was just enjoying it in just fanboy mode. When you get around it and you realize there's nothing elite and snobby here, is like real street guy loving this shit. I've kind of John Lennon-y, And so at that point I went, okay. And then I just began to trust him. When he would say, hey, check this out, or hey, watch this, or listen to this, I would always do it. And yeah, there was an artistic thing.
This is a perfect segue to talk about how we started working on Dracula, and then Ian will toss it over to you for some specific Dracula questions. But again, Kelley and I have been friends for years and years and years, like as he describes there, and we'd always had this, someday we're going to do something together. Someday we're going to do something together. Someday we're going to do something together. Kind of chorus, and we both knew we wanted it to not just be a short story or a one-off or something like that. We wanted it to be something significant, But at the same time, as you go on and on, your life and your career takes you this direction and that direction. I mean, think about how many friends you had through your life that you wish you saw more of. That's the same sort of gig in this scenario. Yeah. But then about 2 years ago, I posted something on Facebook, and Kelley responded to it with that same old echo of, we really got to do something together someday. And this time I contacted him and said, you serious? Because I've been thinking about this idea for a long time now, and I think I finally have a great grasp on it, And he said, well, what is it? And I said, well, it's Dracula, dude. And I think that's like the sublime combination for you and I, And but it's going to
exactly. It was the exact opposite of my reaction.
Time,
It was the exact opposite to my reaction to Red Ring, where I didn't want. I was like Batman and Dracula. This one, he said Dracula, went, ooh, okay. What do you got? Because again, I trusted him, and when Matt said, you've never heard this before, you've never seen this before, and he was selling himself short, because it wasn't that I hadn't only never heard of it before or seen it before. It was on an epic scale. And it wasn't this little story of a guy who's a vampire. It was like epic. It was huge. And then he told me the whole scope of what he wanted. And so he said, your commitment's going to have to be a while, because 4, 5, 6 years to do this, because it's 4 books. And I went, I'm in. Because it
didn't take long.
No, I was in. I did. In fact,
I don't know. I think it was just the right place, the right time for both of us. You know what I mean?
Well,
and just aligned.
It was. I think I was kind of disappointed with the way things were going as far as what you could do, what they called horror anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I went, it's not horror. It's more psychological, and it pulls its punches, and it's afraid to go to those bad places.
Well, it was psychological, or it was torture.
Yeah.
And I'm not really interested in that, but I mean, both Kelley and I have a deep love of the classic monsters,
Yeah.
And we wanted to kind of redefine that for a modern audience.
Well, Matt, as Matt always says,
bring it back to the sort of aesthetic of the creepy and eerie and heavy metal, the stuff from the 70s that we grew up loving.
Yeah, I think that's what snagged me, was Matt said 70s heavy metal, Warren, and if people go back to those are brutal books.
Yeah,
they're unbelievably not just visually graphic, but graphic in what they're saying and doing. And they were I've said this before, you'd rather your mom catch you with Playboy than with heavy metal. So
Playboy's just naked chicks.
It's not just naked girls, and my mom would go
fucking robots,
right? And so my mom would just say, "Well, you should be, naked girls. I get it. You're 15. I understand.
That's great.
But if it's heavy metal, oh Lord, I mean, Corbin and Mobius and all the rest of Liberatore, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, Liberatore. Yep.
So at that point, when he said that, it was like touching everything for me. Then Matt said, I want to do it in a way which agreed with my 4-color printing sensibilities. I like really black, really bright.
Yeah.
I think everything he was saying it sounded not homogenized. It sounded like, this is going to look great. When I started getting back the stuff colored by Jose Villarrubia, I was like, I like I said, always trusted Matt's vision, but it was like, God damn it, he's right. This is unbelievably wonderful.
Yeah,
It's
we
unlike
told
anything I've
Jose at the
seen.
beginning.
I'm getting hit with a lot of other artists telling me, "How are you getting this right now?" They're looking at just this few things, and I'm deluged with that. How are you getting
I
this?
told Jose at the beginning, we don't want dark and moody. Kelley captures that already in his drawing. We need something bright and vibrant and, kind of pulsating with menace. And, I specifically pointed him to Italian giallo films and Dario Argento and Suspiria and Mario Bava and Black Sabbath. Both
Not to interrupt, Matt, but Matt, today I just got Kino Lorber put out a beautifully remastered Black Sabbath.
Oh!
They found the original print, did a beautiful job, and it came out. It's for Halloween, and I've got to watch it tonight to keep that.
And there again, if your viewers aren't familiar with that, it's an anthology film from the 70s, early 70s.
No, 1963.
Early 60s.
Yeah,
and,
it influenced.
Boris Karloff, and it's an anthology film, kind of like Creepshow. And it's opposed to most horror films of today, which are also dark. You can barely see what's going on. It's lit up like a pinball machine.
Yes, it is. It's so bright,
spooky and shit. It's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, when we approached Jose with that as a coloring motif, he was just like, "Got it." And boy, he ran with it.
He's Spanish by heritage.
Yeah, so right.
He knew all this stuff.
Yep.
In fact, he made Matt. What Matt was saying made him so happy because Matt's talking about all the things he knew. He knew heavy metal. He knew these films. He knew giallo. So he was being asked to do what he grew up with and what he was very familiar with.
Yeah, all the parts just came together.
It does. It does.
Folks, this is a collaboration of a lifetime.
Yeah,
we feel so. Yeah.
Yep. And I always used to regret. I didn't do Batman or whatever with Matt. It's fine because now we're doing this.
Yeah, and we're so much better. It's so much better.
Yeah, it is. We've come. I think we what's happened is one, we've learned our stuff. We know what we're doing. But he was at I know for me it was a moment of frustration as far as things were going to what we both knew. And when Matt just said what he said of what he wanted to do, I didn't know what publisher would handle it.
It wasn't so much frustration for me because again I've always kind of enjoyed this. I'll find somebody to let me do just whatever the fuck I want. Yeah. But it was figuring out, I've always had this fascination with Dracula, reaching way back, and it was just like, but how do I do something different? How do I give my spin on Dracula? And I'm a big fan of the original novel, and I know it very, very well. And in fact, our first volume is based upon a just kind of two throwaway lines that are in the original novel that paint an aspect of Dracula's history that almost nobody has ever touched upon. And it was just that I had finally figured out how I wanted to approach Dracula in comic book form. And here's the most significant part of that. We are not retelling the original novel.
No.
There are a ton of adaptations of that. And, they all have their pluses and minuses, and they're all kind of cool and not cool. We're not doing that. We're not covering the stuff that's in the original novel at all. We're telling everything that's around the edges of the original novel, everything that's hinted at in the original novel. And man, I'm real happy with it. So when I had figured that out, then it was time to approach Kelley and go, all right, man, now's the time. Yep for this.
Yeah. And when someone just tells you on the phone and you're blown away. Yeah. And then, and when he told me the original story, what he wanted to do in the first one, and then he just dropped what he would do for 2, 3, 4, like very briefly, just like a couple sentences each. And I went, damn, that's good. Damn, that's interesting. Damn, I like to respond emotionally.
Yeah.
And I like to respond because if I do, then I know I'm a fan first. I always will be. I never have felt like I'm professional because I don't know the terms and I don't know. You know, I'm very intuitive and
Yeah, dude, at some level, both of us are just drawing either for ourselves or
Yeah.
for our immediate circle of friends.
Yeah, and I've been drawing for myself.
And then, you know, if anybody else likes it too, gravy on top.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, it is. And I've been doing that since 1987. So I'm just versed in that. I just draw for myself and I think for myself.
Yeah, there's Kelly's first cover.
Yeah. Yep.
So beautiful.
It is. It is.
And I want to point out here the logo we're using there is the logo from the original 1987 hardcover edition by Bram Stoker. And we chose that because, you know, if you look around on the internet, there's a zillion different Dracula logos of a zillion different levels of gothic complexity and you know, design exuberance.
Yeah.
And I finally I called Kelly one day. I was like, dude, we're going to go back to the original. We're going to use that original logo.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, that's exactly what we're doing.
Yes. Somewhere I like to think Bram is smiling on us. You know, he's looking at it going, yes, that's it. That's how you do it. No, I've been wanting.
There's our first page.
Yes, I've been wanting to do that thing where I didn't have to worry what an editor would say or what a publisher would say.
And
I only wanted to serve what the writer would say. That's all.
I would urge any of your viewers to go check out our Kickstarter page because there's a really terrific trailer for the book.
Yes.
That features the narrative of that first page. And if you're interested in Dracula at all and that doesn't grab you, well, we can't do anything for you. But man,
we did all we could.
You really should grab you. Yeah.
Yeah, the link is below, folks. But let's actually go to Kickstarter for a second, just to see what crazy stuff you got in store for us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
so say that again. What are you asking?
Well, let's just show the audience what crazy stuff you have stored for us.
So we have two hardcover editions, standard hardcover editions. I did a cover. That's Kelly's cover right there, and that's my cover.
Yeah,
so you can buy either or both hardcover editions. Let me preface this by saying this is not standard comic book size. This is European album size. It's 8.5 by 11, not whatever American Comics is 6.34, whatever.
Wow.
There's a great look at our main bad boy. Go back there just a little bit, Ian. So right here, in the center there. So when we first announced this, I got a message on Twitter from Leslie Klinger, who is an author who has written a extremely popular, very extensively annotated version of the complete Sherlock Holmes, a very extensively annotated version of Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein. He's considered one of the world's preeminent Dracula scholars.
Yeah.
And he contacted us and said, "Oh, I'm so excited by this project, you know." And we said, "Oh, can we show you the book? And you know, if you dig it, can you possibly give us a quote?" And he gave us this glowing quote. And you know, as Kelly says, it feels like we went to the professor and the professor said, "A+, boys."
A+. Well, it was more Matt's ass on the line than me.
Oh man.
But there's our main bad boy.
Yeah.
And
I also hope wherever Vlad is, he's saying thank you.
Ooh, I like this.
That's a great guy. Yeah.
Oh.
Speaking of Vlad, there is Vlad, the motherfucking Impaler.
Listening to the music, you know.
He says there's nothing quite enticing as the
groans,
death groans of the defeated. What sweet music they make, which of course is a reference to the line in the novel where he references the wolves howling outside, and he says, "The children of the night, what sweet music they make."
Yeah, and they do make music.
Oh man, yeah, I love how you just went very free with the page layouts. You know.
Yeah. Anything to emphasize the power of what was in the script.
Yeah.
And here, let's tell a little tale of. We went through 3 versions of this first page because I had written the script and Kelley did a version, and I was like, "Yeah, just it's not good enough." And he did another version, and we were both like, "Yeah, it's just not good enough." And then we finally latched on this because again, it just had to grab you in regards to Dracula.
The teeth in the moon.
Yeah, the teeth in the moon was what did it, because we didn't really want to show him. We don't want to show him on page 1. It's not. But everything about this screams Dracula.
And why I trust Matt is I have a standard thing when I was doing Batman. Batman has to be on the first page, right? Yeah. And you have to show Batman. I don't care then if you do. The last thing I wanted to see when I was a fan, open the first page and it's like a rainy night and a fire truck.
Yeah, right? Yeah, a bunch of cops. Yeah, fuck the cops.
Yeah, and I hated that. And I hated that. And so when Matt said that, never did it enter my mind because originally we would have Dracula on the first page. And never did that enter my mind.
But again, it was this subtle balance of we are showing his origin, so we don't really want to see him as a vampire. Yes. And here we get the best of both worlds.
Yes,
it's evocative. It projects an image without actually showing him as a vampire. It's just a perfect depiction.
And what happens is I so enjoy Matt's work that I began to trust him because I knew he was doing his own stuff with Mage and Grendel, that it's not coming from some bullshit point of view. It was coming from a real let's get this right point of view.
Yeah.
And once you're doing that, once you're in that mindset, yes. And so I agreed every time. Even if I drew my ass off on something, I went, that he's right. Right.
Keep scanning down there, Ian. We'll see the rest of what's available. So we got a digital tier for $10. And then here's the two main hardcovers.
Yep.
The main cover and then my variant cover. Mm-hmm. And then if you can't decide if you love both of them, you can get a little break on the price on both of them.
A lot of people are ordering that, Matt.
Yeah, indeed.
Me too.
And then we did a limited edition hardcover as well that includes a signed and numbered tip-in sheet by both of us. And we wanted to, even though Jose's colors are so remarkable, we wanted to do something to distinguish this from the regular hardcover. And the natural fallback was, well, let's focus on Kelley's really, really remarkable inks,
Yeah.
And so that scan back up there just a little bit.
Okay, sure.
So that we are limiting it to 666 copies.
I love that number.
a little satanic yummy.
Yeah.
But if you can see the red there on the cover, that is going to be a red foil stamping. So it has a nice shiny sheen, very fancy looking presentation. And they were also offering this limited edition folio, limited to 300 copies. That is seven plates of interior artwork that we've chosen that are just big, hard-hitting, beautiful examples of Kelley's art. And this is offset printing. It's going to be a gorgeous reproduction. Each one at the bottom bears a little inscription that is a section of my script from that page. So it incorporates a little bit of both of us on that on each plate. And for instance, that first page there that we saw the fangs in the moon and Castle Dracula, the inscription is from the first page, and it says, "I am such hunger incarnate."
Yes.
And it's similar sort of evocative bit of text for each and every one of those. Yeah. Those come in a beautiful sleeve that will have some gloss, spot gloss printing on the outside, and also includes a signed certificate from both of us. That'll be a bit of art that we will both sign. So that price, $245, includes not only the folio but also the hardcover as well, as it says up above.
Yeah, it's the whole shebang.
Yep.
Wow.
And here's an opportunity if you want to buy the limited edition and the folio. There, you get a little bit of a break on that as well.
I think what's interesting is that in the book, yes, in the in the book. You get this wonderful story, but also some nice extras. Just the process stuff of how things were made.
At the back, I have a little afterword. I didn't want to do a forward because I didn't want to interrupt our approach to the story.
Nope.
No.
And afterwards, I talk about how we got here and our thought processes, and then we show some pencils versus inks, and some of Kelly's original sketches. So you do get some extras in the back of the.
Really nice. Actually, they're really nice. I have to say it was.
Not only that, Kelley has done, just magnificent end papers, and two different ones. So there's a front end paper and a back end paper, and they are both equally just goddamn gorgeous.
And because
if you can't tell, we poured our heart and souls in and blood. Blood. I wanted this book to be superior in its look. I wanted it to be classic.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be where you're proud of. I always kind of think of, Matt, people who never bought a comic book but love Dracula would get it.
Yeah.
And then when they would look at it, they go, "This is the real deal.
This hits all the notes, eerie notes."
No, I think you guys have delivered in spades, because just from the artwork and the way you're describing it, and the fact that it's volume 1, and which means there are going to be other volumes. You've already mentioned 4 volumes in total.
Well, I want to make clear that Matt wrote them all independent of one another. They're complete stories. So it isn't like if you buy one, I got to wait for to see what happens. No, everything that happens.
That's good.
You go to the second one, it's another self-contained story. All 4 will be self-contained, but if you get them all, it's the Lord of the Rings of Dracula.
It's the symphony. It's the Dracula symphony. Yeah.
It's the entire huge Tolkienian epic of Dracula. And that
it'll answer questions about the story that you didn't realize you had.
Yep. 100 years after we're dead, they will be talking about this book. That's the thing I like.
Oh man. No, but this is exciting. And what's also exciting is people are really interested, invested in it, because it's coming from you guys, and also the fact that it's Halloween and all that. So yeah.
Well, that wasn't an accident.
No. No, it wasn't.
No, I think it's one of those things that every Halloween they'll pull out, Matt, and they'll read it. I think it's
we can only hope so, right, man?
I wanted. I mean, this is how I felt. I felt it'll be Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee, and our book. That's what I was thinking. I go, it's just going to be completely identified with what Bram Stoker did.
Yeah, I can believe it, because again, just by you telling me and telling everybody this, just describing, some specifics about everything, people are going to buy it, and clearly,
I think what Matt did was he really emphasized the nobility of this man.
Yeah,
that he's not a monster in that because of the supernatural aspect of it.
No, he's already a monster.
he's just what he is, and that's what colors him as the great vampire.
The monstrosity starts here, and then he becomes a vampire. And the monstrosity just steps over into the supernatural world.
Right. And
I also want to point out that when it came time to figure out Dracula's history, how's he become a vampire?
Simple as that.
It seemed to me like he can't just get bitten by another vampire.
Yeah,
that's fucking boring.
It is.
It's just like, and not only that, it makes him a victim. And this guy is never a victim.
Never, ever.
It's one of the things I hate about the Coppola version of Dracula. There's a lot of stuff I love about that film, most specifically the filmmaking.
Yeah.
But I hate the buried romance, reincarnated romance aspect. I don't like that part. And there's a point where Mina's gotten a note from Jonathan after he's been rescued from the castle, and she rushes off to marry him in Transylvania. And Dracula's in like beast form, and he's weeping, and and he's raging and weeping, and I was like, Dracula doesn't fucking weep ever,
No,
ever over anything.
Never does he weep.
So this was the approach we took. Is he's already a monster before he becomes a monster.
Yeah.
I am beyond words. I have no words. Yeah. So it's live right now. It's got 20 days to go. I would seriously, folks, just pick up a couple of copies and seriously buy a lot of these rewards because these are once in a lifetime opportunities.
It is once in a lifetime. And it will lead to the next. And I think personally, I would want this because when the next one comes.
Because believe me, we're this excited about the next 3 as well.
Yes.
And you can tell we're just off our ass about this one.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And what's heartening for me is, yes, the response. It's also heartening to me how many other people are getting a hold of me who do this for their living saying, man, I wish I was on something like this.
Yeah.
Now that they're seeing it. Yeah.
And believe me, the entire process, we started this a year and a half ago or so. The entire process has just been killing us to like,
yes,
we can't talk about this yet. We can't tell anybody. We can't tell anybody. Finally, we can tell people.
Matt had to keep holding me back.
Yeah.
Oh.
Kelly's like, oh, I gotta, like, Kelly,
I
shut
gotta
up.
say something.
Shut up,
I gotta show something. And I said, no, don't. No.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's the worst feeling about it because it's so good. It's so secret. You're like, I want to tell, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I think they were right because now it.
Oh yeah. No, it was the right approach, but boy, brutal getting here.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks for having us, Ian.
We've had a blast.
Yeah.
I'm actually I'm enjoying all of this. This is great. It's great. It's always great to hear.
I always point out, look, Kelly's got this cool little horror setup.
Yeah.
And he's wearing a horror
Yeah.
t-shirt. I'm just here in my studio with a bookshelf behind me.
Yeah.
I feel like here's the writer, there's the artist.
Yeah.
It's ironic that you're wearing Tomb of Dracula t-shirt. Huh?
Yeah.
Gotta support the horror.
You do. You
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So please check out Dracula Vol1, The Impaler, which is live on Kickstarter. Guys, you're more than welcome to come back anytime to talk about the further volumes or just talk about just comics in general.
Thank you.
But yeah, check it out. It's got 20 days to go. Please, you don't want to miss this project.
No, you don't.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to be it for us tonight. I'm Ian Miller, and this has been Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel.
Thanks, Ian.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We both do. Thank you very much, Ian.
Of course. And I'm going to continue to support this project.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.